Hello, everybody. Welcome in to Michigan State Live, episode 1 here on the Voice of College Football Network. I am your host, Ryan Elke, and I'm excited to be here. Very excited to be here for episode 1, Michigan State Live. I want to thank the great people at the Voice of College Football Network, and kind of let's go over first off who am I? I'm Ryan Elke. I'm big Michigan State fan, cover Michigan State for a radio show I work on Spin on Sports, which is a sports morning radio show. It's broadcast throughout the state of Michigan. We're on in Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo. We're up in mid-Michigan on the MIT 100.9. And we're on in Toledo down at 12:30 a.m. And then we're on in Ann Arbor. So that's why I'm here, though, because I want to talk more Michigan State, and being on a station in Ann Arbor doesn't, allow too much of that to happen. We still get into it a little bit, but for the radio show, I'm able to cover Michigan State football, cover Michigan State basketball. Been covering the football team. I think my first credentialed event was probably about 10 years ago. I think I saw the punt fest between Ohio State and Michigan State when Michigan State got pinned inside the 5-yard line, which seemed like 15 times by Ohio State's punter that year. Been a credentialed basketball member now for the last 2 full seasons, so excited to keep going on that. And let's talk about more. We're going to dive into a lot of stuff throughout the season. As for now, the shows will be Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Up until we start ramping up for the season. As we get closer to the season, there's a little more to talk about. We'll be able to dive into a lot more than just kind of the the summer radio stuff, the top 5 this, top 5 that. We'll have tangible, real things to talk about. And that's what I'm excited for. But I'm excited to kind of get things started now and kind of ramp up before the season. And boy, if we had a lot to talk about the last few weeks that haven't even been football related, perfectly honest. And that's kind of the not so fun part of this. But that's kind of why we're here. We know exactly what's been going on the last 2 weeks. It hasn't been great. To get started off with President Kevin Gustwitz, he's going to leave. He's going to head to Clemson, and actually took a pay cut to go to Clemson. And then about 2 weeks later, it was announced that, Jay Batt, he's going to leave for Kentucky. So honestly, how did we get here? We know how we got here, but why did we get here? That's the problem. Is why did we get to this place for Michigan State? I mean, Pat Fitzgerald was hired in December, hasn't coached a game yet, and he's already looking for a new president, looking for a new athletic director. And that's not the fun part. And it's not like they were on the way out. Like, as Tom Izzo said, that was the best president he's ever worked with. I mean, for Michigan State fans, I think they were excited for that fact of Gustwitz and Batt to be there, Batt coming in, setting up Spartan Ventures, getting the big $400 million, donation, the plans for Spartan Stadium, kind of working through that. And as Spartan fans, we are all excited about the future. But what has been holding back the future for Michigan State? It's been the Board of Trustees. And it's not fun when you're a fan of a college team or just want to enjoy college sports and you have to talk about the Board of Trustees. There's enough garbage we have to talk about college athletics anyway these days. We have to talk about NIL. We have to talk about agents. We have to worry about the transfer portal every other week. We have to worry about court cases, the NCAA, not enforcing any rules anymore. We're seeing cheating scandals left and right. We're seeing a quarterback, transfer schools that has a betting history and trying to find a judge that'll say it's okay to let him play. We have enough garbage to deal with as college athletics fans. And now we have to look at the Board of Trustees. And state of Michigan is a weird one because we're one of 4 states where the Board of Trustees for the school get voted in by the general public. It's Colorado, Nebraska, and the other states escaping my mind at the moment, but Michigan's just one of them. And when President Gustovitz put his, goodbye letter out there, part of it was that he was annoyed with the Board of Trustees and how we all don't work well together. Nevada's the last state. It was down here in my notes, and there's the 4 states: Colorado, Michigan, Nebraska, Nevada. But back to Gustovitz, when leaving, he talked about the importance of the one team philosophy and the belief that the progress is strongest when we row together, row the boat. We make fun of PJ Fleck for rowing the boat, but it's honestly, it's important. we need to row the boat, and talks about is becoming increasingly difficult to work with the Board of Trustees. And we know what's going on with the Board of Trustees. It was coming down that, the president wanted them to sign this new code of ethics. And, I think it was 6 of them did, but, Rima Vassar and Dano didn't sign them and caused a big stink of it. And part of the reason Gustovitz wanted to leave, even in those board meetings, they approved for the president, I think, to double his salary almost. And, the president said no. And 2 days later, Clemson is announcing him as their next president and took a pay cut for Michigan State. And that's a huge problem when, we're offering the money. The money's there. Money's not an issue for Michigan State. But the Board of Trustees is, infighting, suing the college for $25 million. It's a huge problem when you're causing the turnover that causes the instability of what now needs to be, the most stable time in athletics because of the ever-changing ways. You need that strong leadership to help you kind of way through this. And that's what Michigan State thought they had. But as soon as, Gustovitz leaves for Clemson, that triggers a buyout clause for the athletic director, Jay Batt, to cut his buyout from $5 million to $2.5 million. And Kentucky swoops in and hires him away. Now, the fun, tricky part about Jay Batt leaving is with Gustovitz still there. He hasn't officially left for Clemson yet. They haven't named an interim president. Michigan State's going to try to fight that it's a full $5 million buyout for Jay Batt. Well, Kentucky will probably try to fight that it's 2.5. He is leaving. He is gone. Not physically yet, but emotionally and philosophically that he's gone. And that's just the issue going for Michigan State right now. And I know fans and alums are trying to find new ways to maybe find some stability, to get Governor Whitmer involved, to dismember some of these Board of Trustees, to possibly look into changing the ways of how we appoint them, because for some states they're appointed, there's alumni boards, there's different ways to handle this, and we're just one of 4 states that do it this way. So maybe it is time to look into a change. But we've seen people like Justin Rose, the former sports anchor here in Detroit, saying he wants to run, he wants to somehow find a way to get a seat. And a strong Twitter campaign right now, Mo Gerhart, who used to work on the women's basketball broadcast, he's actually making the push right now to get on the ballot as an independent. He's looking for 12,000 signatures and just looking a way to, find a way. And he's been a lifelong Spartan. He's worked for the school, worked with the women's basketball team, bleeds MSU. And, Mo wants to make a change. And it's great to see the alumni kind of standing up right now and trying to find the right way to voice these people out or get a spot in on this board. And that's one thing that's nice, is just to see, you know, people trying to go about it the right way at this moment instead of trying to, you know, change things in a not so flattering way. I know the board of trustees came out and said, like, they felt threats, or they feel threatened by some of the language alumni spoken. And well, there's been probably some bad words on Twitter. There's been nothing that's cause for concern of how the fans have acted for the board of trustees. So it's not fun that Pat Fitzgerald has to deal with all of this before his first game, really before practice really begun. I mean, J-Bat wasn't even here for a full calendar year. That's the bummer part about it. And we saw some of the impact immediately of what he did on campus, like making some subtle changes to Spartan Stadium, just upgrading simple concessions, working that one desolate side of the end zone to make at least an entrance, try to bring some life to that side of the stadium, to have the upgrades coming to the stadium and those plans part of that big donation, some of the money's going that way, because Spartan Stadium is in need of an upgrade. While it's a nice stadium, it's not a great stadium. There's a lot that could be done with it, and that's the plans going forward. But that's just not the fun part. The one thing I am ecstatic for is that we actually do have Pat Fitzgerald here. Because just imagine if we've had these turnovers happen over the last few years where Mel Tucker's been in charge, and then we needed strong voices to get him out. We had Jonathan Smith in charge. Imagine Jonathan Smith trying to convey confidence in a fan base with this going on right now. It'd be impossible. That man never showed a single, emotion in his life. I think the only time I saw an emotion out of him was when I asked him a question in post game of what the fans are apathetic now towards you. Like, how do you deal with the fan base that way? It was the first time I saw emotion out of him. He's like snarled at the word, apathetic. Well, it's like, what do you expect from us when we watch that product? So imagine you had Jonathan Smith or Mel Tucker trying to convey confidence in a fan base right now when your president and AD leave willingly because of the board of trustees. It would not gone great. So to have a strong voice like Pat Fitzgerald, who's been in the Big Ten, knows Michigan State, all the cliches, he was at Northwestern, but it's nice to have a strong voice in that position who, right after the news dropped, said, "Hey, call Tom Izzo, told him I'm in the foxhole." And some fans kind of portrayed it, or when you say fans, probably just the usuals, the other people on Twitter that are saying like, "Oh, look at him, he's all by himself." Excuse me there. The U of M fans there love to chirp. It's like, "Oh, he's in the foxhole by himself. He's going to go before the first game." Like Pat Fitzgerald is a loyal guy. He was at Northwestern for how many years? Great. It's his alma mater. He played there, coached there, achieved great things. He had opportunities to go. He didn't. Michigan State giving him that second chance after being fired from Northwestern, going through the hazing scandal that which they fired him for, which he sued the university for, won money against Northwestern for wrongful termination. Like, Pat Fitzgerald is a loyal guy, so I'm not worried that if he's going to jump ship before this happens because the administration can't get their stuff together. I'm excited that he's here and that he has someone like Tom Izzo to kind of be a shield for him, because Tom Izzo has that gravitas at Michigan State to say what he means. I mean, did it right after it all happened anyway. He said what he meant, how he was disappointed with the board, and how, Gus and Jay Bat was the best duo that this college has had, this school has had in a long time. He wasn't, Tom Izzo was never afraid to voice his opinion. So to Pat Fitzgerald able to kind of lean on him, but also voice his own opinions, I'm not worried about Pat Fitzgerald handling, new president AD coming along. I'm not worried if, things actually do go well in year one for him, that he looks at the instability of the higher ups of the school and says, well, thanks for my second chance, I'm out of here now. Or if a new AD comes in to say, well, you're not my guy, see you later. Like, Pat Fitzgerald will have the back of Tom Izzo. We'll have Adam Nightingale there fighting for him. The one thing that, I'm not worried about with the changes of the president and the AD is that we actually do have some strong coaches here. Like, of course, we have the immortal, the god, Tom Izzo at basketball. He is Michigan State University. But we have Pat Fitzgerald. We have Adam Nightingale, who is a stud. Even women's basketball. We have Robin Freilich. Like, we have solid coaches in place. So we don't have to worry about, the coaching when it comes into the administrative change. They're fine. And that's what excites me about, this coming football season and just the future in general, is that we do have coaches in place, just ready to go all out, not afraid to voice their opinions, and ready to bleed green for all of us. So, but man, what a way to, have stuff to talk about over the summer. I mean, at least it's just administrative changes. Athletic director, that's going to be a tough one. We'll see what happens there. I don't believe they've named an interim yet. And honestly, just come in, do your job. If he can be as innovative as Jay Bat and kind of being that forward facing, let's get the money. Let's go all in, and like kind of how Jay Bat was. That's great. I'm excited for that. Where we've had previous ADs like Alan Howler, who was a nice AD, who I think if this was the 80s, the 90s, like Alan Howler's a great athletic director. In this new age, he just wasn't forward thinking enough. I know Mark Hollis, the former athletic director, has kind of thrown his hat in the ring, is saying he'd be interested to take this job again. And I don't know if I'm there yet with Mark Hollis. Like, I think I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it, but I don't know. Just that's kind of looking in the past that we're trying to move forward from. And I don't think that's a smart move for Michigan State, is to kind of look back at Mark Hollis. While he did many great things here, and he was a forward thinker, help creating the Champions Classic, help putting together those battleship games for the basketball team. He was a great forward thinker, but when it came down to everything that went down with Larry Nassar, it just seemed like, you know what? I know I'm getting fired. I'll see you later. And then Tom Izzo became the voice once again for Michigan State. He had to be the one taking all the heat, taking all the questions for everything. So I don't know if it's smart to just look back and just bring him all the way back in. And maybe it's time to just finally take that step forward and say, thank you, but we're here to move on. So I don't know if Mark Hollis is the answer to going forward at the athletic director position. So thank you for all who are watching here, by the way. First episode of Michigan State Live. I'm your host, Ryan Elke. Follow us at, on Twitter, the VOCFB. That's the Voice of College Football. We're on the Voice of College Football Network. And, if you're looking for, whether it's Michigan State, hey, I'm here. We have tons of other teams that we cover, Michigan, Auburn, Tennessee. You go down the list of all of them. We got you covered. So look on the Voice of College Football Network for your team, but stay here for Michigan State throughout the season as well. As we're coming up, as we're going through the season, we'll have plenty of collab episodes with all the other colleges that are covered, so we could talk about their team. And we got some big games this year. Notre Dame, game number 3 on the schedule. I am pumped for, hoping to go to that one. Applied for the press pass just this last week, so hopefully that can come in, and I'll be there, boots on the ground in South Bend. Never been to South Bend before, so got to go see Touchdown Jesus. Tell him, hey, put your arms down today. It's not going to be your day. So excited for this season to come. And I'm excited to just kind of get away from what we've been having to deal with here in the last few weeks. Great. It's just a president and AD leaving. We see the school down the road. They lost their basketball coach, Dusty May. He went to the Dallas Mavericks. Tonight's NBA draft, he drafted Ade Mara. But Michigan's going through that cycle of hiring another basketball coach. And, and also they're going through their own athletic department, investigation. So it's one thing with Tom Izzo here, with Pat Fitzgerald here, with Nightingale, Freilich, that's why I'm excited of the stable of coaches we have in the loyalty. Now, Adam Nightingale, the only thing I'm worried about him is that someday the NHL might be calling, but for the last 3 seasons, that man has been a stud there in Munn Ice Arena. So who knows if that day will come, but I think he wants to bring home that championship first before, any higher calling. So I'm just ready for the season to start. I am ready to just get back to just football. I'm just ready to dive in and be done with this mess, because honestly, it just feels like that's all us Spartan fans have been dealing with for the last 5 years, especially with the football program, is just a mess. Mel Tucker comes in, gets hired during COVID. We had the Luke Fickell plane watch, and we get Tucker in that COVID season. It starts off horrific. It tested the adage of, lose every game of your season, but beat your rival. Would you take it? We almost lived it. We beat Michigan, and then we beat Penn State at the end of the year. Peyton Thorne's first start coming in. To have to live that type of season. Then we get 2021. We get the Kenneth Walker year. We get Peyton Thorne setting records, through the air. We get Jaden Reed, Jalen Naylor. It was a fun season, and it came crashing down as hard can get. And, to have 5-7 season, have Mel Tucker then fired for sexual harassment of Brenda Tracy, and then to go through those legal battles and to go through that, then bring in Jonathan Smith, nice person. I'll not say a bad thing about Jonathan Smith, the person. And he was dealt a tough hand here coming in after Mel Tucker. And then in year 2 of Mel Tucker, or Jonathan Smith, he gets sanctioned from Mel Tucker's recruiting violations. It's hilarious that we get sanctioned for recruiting violations. It's the adage of the NCAA, we're not going to punish our tier 1 brand school names. We'll go handle punishments elsewhere. Where Michigan State, they were self-reported of, flying a recruit in, or, sending the parents on vacation so they wouldn't go take another visit. And so we get hit with some recruiting violations in the middle of year 2 of Jonathan Smith. And I think us MSU fans, we kind of deserve a break from this garbage that's just happening for the football level. We deserve to have the fun back in our lives. We deserve to have a good defense. I mean, hell, we're here, and the thing I'm most excited about, we'll dive this to later episodes, Max Bola is back. he was co-defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, and it felt like kind of a pipe dream of bringing him back without giving him the full DC title. And we keep Joe Rossi on, and we get to bring Bulla in as the co-defensive coordinator. Like, sign me up. Like, that's great. Like, and to have Pat Fitzgerald here, who I think pretty much all Big Ten fans respect the hell out of Pat Fitzgerald. Like, a couple years ago when Tucker was fired, I thought maybe Pat Fitzgerald is just, was just let go. It was like, maybe we don't touch that yet. And, we didn't. Fitzgerald went through his wrongful termination suit, won that. And it seemed like in the back ends that Pat Fitzgerald was brought in and hired, and hear what Pat Fitzgerald had to say just leading up to that hiring, talking about how, he went and visited other colleges. He was trying to learn this whole new NIL landscape. And maybe I'm a sucker for letting Pat Fitzgerald win the press conference, but you know what? That's an important first step, at least to just get us through to the start of the season. We got to be excited about something around here, especially after the last 2 years of Mr. Monotone, Mr. Joe Cool Sidelines, Jonathan Smith. And granted, he was a nice person, but man, did that man not show a single emotion. So, I mean, just ecstatic to get back to seeing some energy in Spartan Stadium, to, when Pat Fitzgerald was coming in the Breslin Center, pumping the zone up, pumping the crowd up. And just, it was nice to have that life and that little energy, that little tingle, getting excited about football season, that we weren't trying to, us as fans, we had to kind of create that buzz, because that's the hard part. We have a coach out there that's, ready to pump us up. And, brought up earlier, as Pat Fitzgerald said, that he's in the foxhole with us. And I'm just glad he's here. There could have been other coaches that we could have brought in, but, it is what it is. The great Sean Blegian always says, it is what it is. Pat Fitzgerald's here. I'm going to be a Pat Fitzgerald guy until, he gives me a reason not to be. That's one thing you'll learn about me quick. Like, I'll tell it as it is, but like, I'm not going to look back and say, hey, we should have, could have, would have done this. Pat Fitzgerald's here. I'm going to be rooting for Pat Fitzgerald to succeed like hell, because, we want to be those days of Mark D'Antonio again. Like, we're knocking off these top teams. When's the last time we had one of those signature wins for Michigan State? It's been at least 5 years since we've had a, great, a game we shouldn't have won. We shouldn't have won that we won. Like, I'm excited to have that type of mentality, that, it's cliche, that Spartan dog mentality that people like to make fun of. But like, when the days of Mark D'Antonio, that's what it felt like, though. Like, we had that belief, we had that energy, and we haven't had that for so long. And I think Pat Fitzgerald can kind of install that. You have Max Bulla here, who lived it, went through it, was a captain of it, to build that type of mentality with this team. And I'm just ready for it. I'm ready for football season. I'm ready to start, seeing pads on pads, and I'm just ready for football, ready for you guys to live this journey out with me too. So Michigan State Live. We're going to be live on Voice of College Football Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Follow us on YouTube. It's Michigan State VOCFB. So I'll get that down. Michigan State VOCFB is where you can subscribe on Twitter. Michigan State at the Voice of College Football. And I'm ready for football season to begin. And I know we all kind of are. We all are until basketball starts rolling around. Hell, Moneyball just started off, and I haven't gone through the tweets yet of, the awesome things that Cohen Carr and Jeremy Fears are doing, but I'm sure I'll look at that here in just a little bit. But my eyes are on football now, and I'm excited for for everyone to be along with this journey. So as of now, shows will be Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. Like, subscribe, hey, rewatch, leave comments if there's certain things you want to talk about leading up to the season. We will dive into a little bit of everything. It's the Voice of College Football Network, but we're going to talk everything Michigan State. So when basketball season starts ramping up a little bit, we'll dive into a little basketball. If hockey gets off to the hot starts again and goes for another Big Ten title, we'll talk a little bit of hockey, bring some people on, bring some reporters on that know maybe just a little bit more than me at different subjects. We'll have them on. I'm excited to bring some people on, and I'm just excited for this whole journey. So thanks for everyone for watching. We'll be back Thursday, 9 p.m. Michigan State College Football show. It's on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll be back Thursday, 9 p.m. Thank you all for joining us on this first show. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at RyanEL_KEY. So that way you just know how to pronounce my last name, EL_KEY. Find me on Twitter. And we'll have lots to talk about. So, hey, thanks for everyone for joining. Jackson, thanks for jumping in and showing the comments. Love that you're here with us on this journey. We'll be back Thursday, 9 p.m. Go Green.